Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Dungeon Dad Crafts. Have you had a bad day? Are you stressed out? Things just got you down a little bit? Well, I found what helps me when I have moments like that is I come down here to the dungeon, I get away from the dice goblins, and I build something fun. So I figured today, I'm going to show you how to build these neat little fire barrels that you can use in a war game setting, or if you want to do some type of post-apocalyptic diorama, or for Fallout, things like that. And these are really interesting for the simple fact that they cost about 5 cents in materials to make. All you're really going to need is a little bit of paint, a little hot glue, some of these tea lights that you can get at your local dollar store, and just a scrap of old PVC pipe that I happen to have laying around here in the shop. So, the first thing we're going to do is, now that our glue gun has started to heat up, I'm going to put a small bead right along the bottom edge, trying to stay to the inside. If it's messy, it's not a big deal, because this is about fun. It's not about perfection. It's about relaxing, making something with your hands. And if it's not perfect, it's okay, because it's still going to look cool. So we're going to let this dry for a few minutes, and we're going to come back after we've primed it with some black paint, and then we'll go from there. All right, we're back. We have this all primed up now. Let's do a little light test. You can definitely see that light lighting up in there, and the next part of this is going to make it look really neat. We're going to take our hot glue gun that we've got heated up, and we're going to start making the flames by putting a really thick bead to start right here along the outer edge. Going to let that cool for a moment, and once it starts to thicken up a little bit and stiffen up, I've found that if I turn it upside down to do this, it works a lot better. But I'm going to show it this way just so it's easier for the camera. Just going to slowly add some more glue in concentric rings to essentially fill in that hole so that we have a base to work with. We're going to let this cool for a second, and then we're going to move on to actually making the flames. Okay, now that the glue started to harden a little bit, we're just going to start adding more to the top and just kind of playing with it with the tip of the gun here to start making these raised up ridges. And again, this is going to take time, and that's the whole point. It's just to relax. Don't focus on things that have stressed you out. Just kind of turn your brain off for a little bit and have some fun. There we go, and as you can see, as we're pulling this up with the tip of the gun, it's starting to make these little loops and hoops. And you're going to have strings and flyaways, and don't worry, those clean up very easy. Once it's dry, you can just pop it right off. It won't affect anything. And we're just going to continue to do this, and I will come back when that part's finished and we can move on to the painting. Alright, now that our glue has hardened, we're going to move on to the really fun part, which is painting this up. So, I like to start with a little bit of yellow oxide, but honestly, any yellow that you use is going to be perfectly fine, for the simple fact that there's only 2 rules to this. Use what you have. Don't go out and spend a fortune to make something. This is just a fun little hobby. And it only has to look good from across the table. Alright, we're going to get the yellow oxide on here, and I'm just going to kind of... And again, I know people are probably screaming at me right now, oh, thin your paints, use different technique, whatever. I'm doing it my way. That's the whole point. You can do it your way. This is just a simple tutorial. I want to put a light coat, very light, And it doesn't have to have full coverage because you're going to be going back over it again with orange and with a different shade of yellow at the end. We're just going to kind of move up with the flames. And we're going to let that one dry. And we're going to move on to the next color. Okay, we're back with the second color now. The yellow's had a few minutes to dry. And again, just a very light amount of paint. Almost like you're dry brushing something. And just kind of follow the same technique and just hit those blank spots that we left behind with the clear glue. And that's going to kind of fill in those gaps and give this more of a real fire feel to it. And again, it only has to look good from across the table, so don't get worked up about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're happy with it, then that makes it perfect. Right, we've got our little smattering of orange here. We're going to come back in a couple of minutes and add on another shade of yellow. Okay, for this next step, I'm going to use even less King's Yellow than I used with the last two colors, because essentially I just want to dry brush this just to give it some fun little mixes of color here and some more semblance of realism. And again, does not have to be perfect. And I think this one is done. So we're going to let that dry for a little bit longer, and then we're going to put them into practice, so to speak. See how they look in a game situation. And here we have the most recent one that we just finished. Are they to scale? No. Do we care? No. Because they look neat. And they were fun to make. I, for one, enjoy making these very simple projects. Just because, if nothing else, they're a way to kill some time, de-stress, and keep my hands busy. Alright, that's the end of today's episode of Dungeon Dad Crafts. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.